Welcome back to Absurdity, where we talk about all things absurd in religion, culture, and society. And today, the absurd thing is how good Henry looks. But honestly, that's an absurd thing every day.
People say I'm funny, and I laugh every morning when I look in the mirror.
Hey, I get lost in my own eyes if I look in the mirror for too long. So I think you and I both have problems with that. And
well, Ryan, I don't know what the weather's going to be like there in where you're at, but tomorrow it's going to rain here, so you might want to stay indoors because if your nose was any further up, you'd drown.
Wow, well done. well played, sir. Well played.
Not to rain on your parade, but
speaking of shots fired, today we've got quite a doozy of a topic for you. One that Henry and I have been looking forward to for the last couple weeks because a friend of ours, someone that I had the privilege of meeting several years ago when I was pastoring full-time and am super excited to reconnect with, and someone who currently is going to educate us on all things to do with being a Black person who has kids coming up, ready to learn how to drive, ready to start taking on the world, and with a little bit of a twist to that conversation as well. So we're going to get into that, but I want to introduce...
Yes, because this conversation will arrest your attention for sure.
Well done. Well done. So I want to introduce to you guys Anthony Carter, born in Jamaica, raised in New York, is a pastor in North Carolina, and has a master's in marriage and family counseling, a wife with a PhD in counseling as well. So a family who really understands what it means to enter the human experience and really meet people where they're at with both sympathy and empathy, because both of those things are needed at different times, as well as wisdom. And so it's my pleasure to introduce to you guys Pastor Anthony Carter, who also has 4 kids, Ashley, Jasmine, Jared, and Tyler. So, Anthony, thank you so much for coming on, man. I'm glad to have you here. It is good to see you and your beautiful face and beard again. And tell us, what is the most interesting thing here that makes this conversation a little bit more unique?
I'm here. That's what makes it great. My presence is awesome. You know what it is? It's
that's facts. That's actually true. Yes.
It's always nice to be able to have conversation and converse with friends about issues that are facing our society today, and in our own context, trying to find if not a solve, a resolve. It's always good to be able to find a common ground where we're better able to understand each other and move forward. You know, I can't have your experience, you can't have mine, but maybe if we could understand it a little better, we'd be able to move in sync with each other. So that's my mentality. Is it wrong or right? I don't know, but that's just how I see it at this point.
Well, and something else that's going to make this really exciting, and what Ryan was kind of alluding to, is that on this menu of things that you bring to the table, you got a blue plate special that you can offer us, because you're not just giving us an example. Sorry, if you haven't figured out yet, Anthony's kind of chuckling to himself. I'm the comic relief sometimes. And and my point is there is also something else you do for work, and that's going to bring another perspective to kind of balance out everything we're going to talk about today. And what exactly is that, Anthony?
So in addition to being a local church pastor, I also serve as a chaplain for 2 police departments currently.
Yeah. So this is going to be an interesting conversation, because I think, and I think there's a couple things that we should qualify about this, which is, number one, each one of us here respects and appreciates police officers on a broad scale. I think I'm safe in saying that. I think we're all appreciative of it. I can tell you countless times in my own life where I've had to call the police for any reason, for several reasons, and they have done a huge service in, whether just by their presence or by their actual intervention, and that includes saving lives, as well as comforting and taking command of a situation. And so, very grateful. And so, this conversation I want to temper with that fact, and the fact that I think all three of us in this conversation, and you can feel free to correct me if I'm speaking out of line here, but I think all three of us desire a more effective, more efficient, and more trusted police force, and police officers that are taken care of in their emotional and mental and emotional well-being, mental health, all of that good stuff as well. But I think all of us desire those things, and it's that framework that comes from this conversation, because the other side of this is we want for citizens to feel safe. We want for general people, and especially people of color right now, given the current climate, we want everyone to feel safe in these, when they're driving to the store, when they're driving home, when they're driving in a car that looks nicer than what the stereotypes allow for, right? We want, these are outcomes that we want. And so I think our conversation is hoping to bring some understanding, and Henry and I are coming at this from a perspective of wanting to learn and wanting to educate ourselves as well as engage in conversation. And so that's where we come, I think, Anthony, what you shared is really important and pretty much hits the nail on the head for what absurdity is, which is just trying to figure out how to navigate these conversations, modeling that navigation, whether we get something wrong and have to apologize or whatever, but modeling that so that other people can feel confident doing the same. These conversations are not just reserved for the PhDs. Us normal people have to have them too. So yeah, with that, Anthony, can you shed some light on kind of your experience as a Black man, as a chaplain in the police force, especially right now?
Let me give you the genesis of it as far as going into the department. I was pastoring in a particular area, and I wanted to be effective for my community. And I went to the local police department and I spoke to the person that was in charge. My rhetoric was simple. I said to them, I want to be able to be of assistance. What can I do to help community, help the young African-American boys and girls? What can I do to build them so when your officers show up, it's not showing up to arrest them, it's showing up to say hello to them or greet them? How can we work together? And the person said to me, help them, talk to them, help your church have more programs for them, keep them involved, keep their minds active, and just try to build them up. So that's how the conversation got started. And before I left, he said to me, the sheriff said to me, we have a program that I would love for you to be a part of. Okay. Never heard of it before. First time, never heard about it before. He said, we have a police chaplaincy program, and I would love for you to be a part of that to help my officers, help my deputies better. Just listen to them, hear them out, speak to them, not to evangelize them, not to witness to them, not to bring them into your church, but be a listening ear for them. I wonder what that entails. So I would have to ride along with them and be with them and all that. And you know what? I did it. It was excellent. I love it. It's a great thing to be a part of. And there are two things. First thing is this. I think a lot of us will not understand what an officer goes through until you're in that vehicle. When you're in that actual vehicle and you hear the calls coming in and you're driving with them, and when a situation happens where the lights are on and they're rushing to a scene and all these things are happening, you realize how in a split second, everything goes another direction. They have to make decisions on the spot. So I recognize the work. Now, on the other side of it, being a Black man in America, especially at this point in my life, being a Black man in America with children who are driving, with kids who are driving, I will admit to you, I'm still nervous.
Mm-hmm.
With all my police affiliation, I'm still nervous. It's funny you mentioned driving a particular car. I have a particular car, and recently my daughter and I were driving, and my daughter was driving in a predominantly white neighborhood, and she was driving the car. She had her hood on her head. She had a hoodie on her head, because she said her ears were cold. Okay, she put her hoodie on, and she's driving, and I'm looking around, and I said to myself, okay. Here's the thought that goes through my head. I won't lie to you. Here's the thought. And she and I even made a joke about it, but it was real. It was real. I said to her, I am a black man with my teenage daughter wearing a hoodie, driving this particular car in this particular area. I said, Ash, we're about to be pulled over. I said, girl, we're about to be pulled over. And I went to say to her, take the hoodie off. But I stopped. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't comfortable until we were out of that neighborhood. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. And let me go ahead and put this out there. I promise you, I know law enforcement folks who are genuinely good folks. They are great individuals who would stand up for wrong and stand against wrong. And even though I know these individuals, I am friends with them. They know me on a first name basis. I know them on a first name basis. They come to my house. I hang out with them. Even though I know these individuals, the reality of my life is this. When I'm driving and I see lights behind me, I still get nervous.
So can I ask you a question here? I don't think I've ever heard this question asked. And maybe that could just be my own lack of research. I don't know. We'll find out. But I'm curious because one of the things, number one, first, thank you for opening with that kind of transparency. I think that's important, and I think that lays some good groundwork for us. Number two, I think one of the things that people are hesitant or resistant to this conversation and resistant to the idea that Black people are afraid when they're driving in the wrong place at the whatever time, they think either the statistics are overblown or out of context or whatever, which ironically I tend to feel the exact opposite, that you have to take them out of context to get to the other side of this. But my question is this: if you can identify it, when did those feelings start for you? At what point do you and it's okay if you don't know like the day, year, and month,
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was about 2000, 2002, 2001, 2002, somewhere along those lines. My church, I was attending a church in New York, and we had a picnic coming up. We had a church picnic coming up, and you gotta love this one. The picnic was in Long Island, New York, and I lived in Queens, New York. And my brother, myself, and two of our friends were going to the church picnic. We had on T-shirts for the church. Churches give out T-shirts one time. I don't know if y'all remember that. Churches give out T-shirts. And on the T-shirt, it said the name of the church. It said the year. It said the picnic. And we just, excited about it. And the four of us are driving to the picnic. We opted not to go on the big church bus. We said, we're going to drive together and have a good time. We got lost along the way. And I saw an officer, and the officer saw us as well, and he pulled us over. When he pulled us over, talking about Long Island, New York. When he pulled us over, I was excited, right? I was genuinely relieved and happy that he pulled us over. And my mindset at the time was, good. The police knows the way. He'll tell us where to go. Surely he'll help us. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. And the officer walked up to the car, gun drawn, gun in hand. I'm not talking about gun in holster. I'm talking about gun in hand.
Mm.
And I looked over to my left. He's standing to my left. I looked to my left, and all I knew is I saw this really tall white guy with a gun in his hand. And I was like, what's happening? What in the world? It was just a moment of what is really happening right now. And he said, windows down. And I said, the car was driving at the time. The front window had just broken 2 days ago. The mechanism had just broke, so the window couldn't come down. So my brother, who was in the back seat, rolled his window down and said, officer, the window can't be come down. The window is broken. The window is broken. My brother can't roll it down. I said, officer, I can't roll it down. The window's broken. And I was just like, hey, that's it. I didn't want to open. And in that moment, I said, I don't want to open the door. I don't want to open the door. If he sees me open the door, he has a gun in his hand. Who knows what could happen next? So my brother said, the window is broken. And I said, and he said, I said, officer, and I started talking out loud because he wanted him to hear me. I said, officer, we're on our way to a church picnic. We are lost. We don't know the direction we're going in. We need help. I said to him, put the gun away. I don't know what got in me. I don't know why I said that, but I said it. I said, put the gun away. We are not of any danger to you. We're trying to get to a church picnic. Look at our shirts. And all of us had the shirts that said the church name, the picnic, and the date. And at that point, he put the weapon away. And he said, where are you trying to go? I didn't want to tell him anything at that point. I was so upset. I'm like, why is that even necessary? So he told us, he said, okay, well, the reason I pulled you over because you got on and off the exit twice. Yep, that's because we're lost. He let us go. And from that day, that was my first experience. Now, gentlemen, I want y'all to understand this. I have had guns drawn on me many times. Okay? I've had guns drawn on me many times. Not once was it a thief. Not once was it a gangster. Not once was it a thug. Every time a gun has been drawn on me, it's by a man in uniform. Every time. That's the reality. That's the reality of what I live in. Right? So from that point on, I've always had the fear of what's going to happen next. Now, to be honest with you, go further with it. Over the years, I've been alert of it, I've been aware of it. Even with my police affiliation, I'm still aware of it. But that thought process has manifested itself even stronger in 2021 because I now have teenage daughters who are driving. In less than a year, my daughters will be driving by themselves. That reality, paired with what can happen, it messes with my mind. To the point where I said to my daughters, when they start driving by, even now, I say to them, listen, here's daddy's card. Here's daddy's law enforcement card. You get pulled over, you show him your driver's license, you show him daddy's card, and you say to them, my dad's with his chaplain law enforcement department, and you're not saying that to get away from anything. You're saying that in hopes that they would bring down the tension. It's not fear that my daughters should have to have that conversation with me. Why can't they just get their license, give their license to the officer, and be okay? Yeah. Why do I have to feel the need to say to my daughters, here, show them daddy's card, not look any favor, We're not looking favor. It's just to say to them, hey, can you just be calm?
Yeah.
So that's my experience. That's the first time, 2001, 2002, Long Island, New York. That was my first time feeling the feeling of, and listen, if you want to have a rush, let a gun be pointed at you.
Don't actually do that though.
Or
like, don't actually
Listeners,
do that,
please don't go do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. But if you, it's a real thing. If you want to have that moment, that it's a numbing moment, but fearful at the same time when a gun is in somebody's hand and they're holding it for the purpose of you. Yeah. So that 2001, 2002, that was the first time. And ever since then, I have been mindful of it. I'm aware of it. And I try to use my police affiliation to understand different officers. And, thankfully, thank you, God, that in both departments I'm a part of, the officers who I've met, who I know personally, I haven't had a bad experience with those who I know. But here's the reality, guys. Here's the reality. It only takes one in one moment. It only takes one in one moment for everything to go left and for lives to be lost. So that's just that.
That's the truth of firearms. It only takes one bullet and you're done.
Yeah. So even though I could know an entire department full of great people, it would only take one person, one moment, one bullet, one life.
Yeah.
Gone. It hurts me. My daughter said to me last week Saturday, we were driving, and she said to me, if I get pulled over, will they shoot me? Like, my 16-year-old daughter has a genuine fear of being pulled over because she thinks she'll get shot.
And what's frustrating is there's a lot of people in the country right now that would look at that and go, well, then, it's just the media controlling her. It's just the media. But there really are, when you have a job that gives you access to a badge and a gun, and you only have to go through a few months of training to get it, right? That does attract a lot of people. The military does it as well. Attracts a lot of people who are angry, who want power because they grew up without it. They grew up being abused or bullied or whatever, and they are the bullies. And there's a lot of people that can't wait. I was actually worried shortly after the Capitol riots, because right after the Capitol riots, I hopped on Parler, the far right wing social media outlet or social media platform. And I hopped on there because I wanted to see what these conversations were. I wanted to see if I could find stuff from the Proud Boys. I wanted to see what I could find of like the premeditated parts of the January 6th riots. And then I found about the Parler leak, and I was like, oh no, someone's going to like see my name on there as a user and think that I'm a part of this. But man, the number of people that were saying that I saw there and that I've seen on Reddit, I can't wait to sign up and be a part of the police and to chase down these guys, right? Or to chase down black people, to chase down people of color. And I can't wait to, and it wasn't, to be clear, what I don't mean is in general. What I mean is like they were saying this in response to riots. They were like the George Floyd protests last year and Black Lives Matter protests. There is a genuine feeling of I can't wait to get out and go do. And the theory behind why the Capitol riots kind of fell apart was not because, or considering that many of the people that were present there and then engaged in that are trained in the use of firearms in one way or another. They're saying that the reason that it didn't do more damage than it did was simply because while everyone there had so much training with firearms, no one had training in leadership. So when you actually get in the heat of the moment with a large crowd of people, no one actually knew how to take command and make use of their training. And so like that one thing, basically, a village full of idiots is what saved us from a lot worse disaster that day. And so I'm just wondering, how have you had this conversation and how with people on that side? Do you even engage in it? Like is this something that you actively look to try and?
So you know what? Listen, and here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to make this. I don't want to make racial tension and racism only a police thing.
Yeah, because it's not.
It goes far beyond that. Okay, and and let me go on the record of saying I support police. I believe in police, as you said earlier, Ryan. I believe in law enforcement. I believe in it. You know, I'm blessed to be a part of it. I'm blessed to correspond and dialogue with officers. So I don't want us to paint a picture of police and racism and make it all one shot. Nope, don't do that. That's not. They are great folks, wonderful people, and within the organization, unfortunately, you have people who are, like you said, the ones who just want to get in for the power, for the authority, who have the wrong motive. Now, to go further with, as we talk about, I live in a predominantly white neighborhood. Okay, I'm gonna give you all the experience. I went to the store the other day. And as I was getting out of my vehicle, I saw this older white guy. Anything of it. He had a Trump hat on and Make America Great Again shirt. I promise you did. It is what it is. Okay. Hey, that's his, those are his thoughts. Those are his political views. Bro, we never going to have that conversation. Do you? I'm here to pick up some food and get on my way. Cool. But here's where I got concerned. That man was open carry. And he had a weapon on him. And I was like, huh. And all of a sudden, I was more aware of his presence. He wasn't law enforcement. He was a 60 to 70-year-old white guy with a pro-Trump hat on, carrying a Smith & Wesson. Okay. Okay, then.
And last I checked, open carry is not legal in North Carolina.
I think it is, isn't it?
Not in public. I think only on your own property, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh.
Which shows the different experiences right off the bat, because the first thing you're thinking is, oh, this is going to be a disaster. And me, the ignorant white guy's just like, wait a minute, dude, that's not your CHP license. Doesn't allow that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think it is. I'm not sure, but I think it is. I've seen it numerous times since, but in that moment, I became more aware of his presence. Okay. I became more aware of his presence because now I don't know the man. But based on the hat, the shirt, and the weapon, and let me be honest, the color of his skin, I now became aware of him.
Yeah.
Now going to the conversation of a the riots that they I was I'm the riots when they stormed the Capitol. 2 days ago, I went to the same supermarket and I saw another older white guy. I'm walking in and he waved to me. So we're all pastors here. So, you know, when you see somebody wave to you as a pastor, you start thinking, wait, do I know that person? Have we met? Did I preach at their church? You start going through where did we meet? Right? So after I couldn't process where I met him, I said, okay, maybe he's waving to somebody behind me or in front of me. He came up to me, and as he's walking towards me, Henry, ready? My guard was up. I'm like, oh boy, it's about to happen. No, sir, not me today. I am not. Nope, it's not. And I'm ready in my mind. I am ready to engage this man and protect myself because I don't know what he has in mind. He comes up to me and he says to me, "Have you heard the one about the horse who fell in the mud?" So I'm like,
starting off with a joke.
Is this some kind of racial slur?
We got some
Wait.
next century racism about to happen, right? Like what innovation is happening in front of me?
Yeah, and by the way, since I misspoke earlier,
Okay.
I now have the facts. It is actually legal to open. This makes the story even worse, probably. It is actually legal to open carry in North Carolina, not on state or federal property, if one does not have a CHP or concealed handgun permit. So the likelihood of them having it open carry probably means they didn't qualify for a concealed weapons permit.
Because see what?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Which just makes you feel even better about this. But anyway.
That made me feel great, right? Great. So he comes up to me and he says, "Have you heard the one about the horse and the mud?" And my mind is saying, "Is this some kind of racial slur?" And I'm like, "Mm-mm, mm-mm." In my head, I'm like, "Mm-mm, don't do it. Don't do it." I was ready. I was ready. Help me, Jesus, to become secular for 2 minutes. I was ready to be secular for 2 minutes. I was ready. And he said to me, I was like, "No, I haven't." And I looked and I said, No, I haven't. And he said, "It got dirty." And he laughed. And he said to me, "Hey, listen, man, listen. We're all here on this earth together. We have to know how to coexist and be happy and just embrace each other. I just want to embrace you." And I was like,
a little bit of maybe mental issues there. I don't know.
When he said it, I was like, okay. But when he said it, in that moment, I saw the genuineness in him. And I was like, yeah, we do. So talk about the Capitol now, to see what happened at the Capitol, to see what transpired, I don't engage in that conversation because no matter how you spin it, there's no justification for it. So for me to engage in that conversation with someone who has opposing view, how are they going to end? Are they going to end by justifying it? No. I rather engage in a conversation with someone who says, "Hey, let's learn each other. Let's learn each other." And I've been actively doing that. I had a gentleman. I think my phone rang. My phone rang a few weeks back, and a gospel song came on as my ringtone. And this another Caucasian white guy, he heard it. He said, "Oh, you listen to the gospel?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "What artist do you like?" And I said, "Ha, learning moment, teaching moment." We can't turn the pastor off inside of us. We can't turn it off, guys. We can't turn it off. We can't. It's just in us. We can't turn it off. I was like, Holy Ghost, let a coal from the altar fall on me right now. I'm about to preach this guy and let him know God is real.
He's on the road to Emmaus. Let's go.
Right? I'm about to put you on the road. I'm about to take you to the road. And I said to him, I said, "Do you know the Gaithers?" He's like, "Do I?" I was like, "Yeah, man. I love the Gaithers. Linda Randall," and I start calling some of the names. I think there's the Cox brothers or Cox siblings, something like that. And I start calling some names.
I see what you're doing.
What? Right? And he looked at me in amazement and he said, "I thought you were going to say Kirk Franklin." And I was like, "Well, I do like Kirk Franklin. I like all." I said, "How did you know?" How'd you know that? Who told you? Do you know me? Do you secretly know me? And I said, "Who do you like?" And he was talking about some of the songs he knows and some stuff. I said, "Listen, I love hymns." I said, "I love hymns and I love when people sing, and I love music." And I said, "Of course, listen, let me tell you something. You give me some Kirk Franklin, give me some Marvin Sapp, I am all there. But you know what? That Martha Muniz, you don't talk about that Bill Gaither." And he was just there like amazed. And in that moment, again, I chose not to be offended by his thought process that because of the color of my skin, my preference is limited to only quote unquote Black artists. I took them to say to him, "Listen, I like music. I enjoy good music, and we shared with each other. We had a moment right there, and I walked away hopefully thinking his viewpoint had now expanded. Those are the conversations I indulge in. The conversations of injustice, the conversations of how to make us better as people. I engage that. As far as the capital, I'm not talking about that because you know what? Again, there's no your viewpoint, unless your viewpoint ends with it was uncalled for, it was wrong, it was intentional. There's no justification for it. Unless that's your viewpoint, I'm not trying to hear you. Because if you're saying to me it was necessary,
I think
we don't.
Go ahead, Henry.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say I wanted to circle back to something because you just demonstrated something that I know is hard for people of faith, but it's something I think as people of faith we try and teach, definitely in ministry, and it's giving up one's right to be offended, right? If you're going to be working with people, but to that end, I mean, you're modeling that, and that's awesome. But I guess in the society in which we're today, another follow-up question would be, how does one engage in that kind of mind growth conversations, that kind of thing, when you have already been offended or you have been violated, right? So for example, it's you kind of understand both sides. You've chosen to purposely go, okay, I'm not going to be offended by that. I'm going to go beyond it. What happens when someone who may be listening or whatever not goes, well, that's easy for you to say, I've been racially profiled the last 12 times I tried to do that. Or someone, I mean, we're in the South, somebody has said something plain stupid racist to me or done racist things to me, and now you expect me just to give up my right to be offended. Well, it's too late. I've been violated. So, like, how does one engage in that kind of conversation? Or do they engage in that conversation? Is that the point where they go, no, it's not safe for me?
I don't know.
I mean, what do you think?
I don't know.
Towards that end?
I honestly, and I know that's may sound odd. I don't know the answer to that, you know. And don't get me wrong, I'm very much offended by some of the statements folks make. But what I've been learning to do by God's grace is understand the root of the statement. Currently, I'm doing a study on the word crisis, and in preparation for a message I've been tasked to do. And in studying the word crisis, one of the things that comes out is that all crisis has a beginning. All crisis has a beginning. And if you understand the root of it, the beginning of it, you'll be better prepared to deal with it. And I think that God is helping me to be at a point in my life where when people make, especially folks who are not like me, and when I say not like me, we're not, you know, as far as ethnicity is concerned, when folks aren't like me make a statement, in a few moments, I have to decide the root of it. Where is it coming from? And based on where it's coming from, I know how to respond. Okay.
So like malicious versus ignorant kind of thing.
You know, for example, I was, as Ryan mentioned before, I was born in Jamaica. I was born on the island, and you know, raised here. And occasionally, I have folks say, "Oh, you're from Jamaica?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they put on this false accent, and they try to talk in that accent, and it drives me nuts because I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing right now? Like, you know, but I take a moment to realize, where are they coming from? Are they trying to be offensive, or is it just ignorance? So based on that, I know how to approach it. Now, some statements are just blatant ignorance. I had a white guy look at me one time and say, "Listen, all you're good for is lifting things up. That's all black guys are good for, just to lift heavy things up." That's not ignorance.
Yeah, that's malicious intention. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Well, and
so you know, I don't know the full answer to that, except right now I can say to you, I try to see where they're coming from. as I said to you prior, the gentleman who heard my phone ring in the store with a gospel song, he wasn't trying to be, in my opinion at least, he was not trying to be uh, uh, um, in any way disrespectful or try to knock me down. He heard a gospel song come from my phone, my ringtone, and chose to engage me in conversation with, hey, I like gospel music. Who do you listen to?
Yeah.
And he was shocked when he found out who I listened to, some of my artists I listened to. That's not, and he said, like, I'm shocked by that.
Yeah. Well,
that's not malicious. That's ignorance on his part.
And a desire for connection. That is a desire for connection.
A desire for connection. Right. Right. So, I think that a lot of times, that's what's helped me. That's what's helped me to function when dealing with others outside of my ethnicity, outside of my scope. And thus far it's been successful. It's been successful thus far. But, reality is you see it. It's again, guys, I tell you, I countless stories. I was parked somewhere 3 weeks ago. I was parked in a particular neighborhood. My daughter was taking care of something at someone's home. COVID safe, mask up. Let me go put that disclaimer in there. She had her mask. She was safe. And she's like, hey, Dad, can you wait for me? So I parked my car in the neighborhood and I was just sitting there for maybe 40 minutes, hour. And a gentleman came up to me and knocked my window. And he looked at me and said, hi. He said, hi. And he said, hey, I'm from the neighborhood. I saw your car parked. I saw you in the car for a while. I just want to make sure you're okay and see what's going on. You've been sitting here for a while. Now, my first thought was, hold on, Mr. White Guy. What? You see a black guy parked up in the neighborhood and automatically think I'm here, scope. All the negative scenarios in my mind. All of them. And I looked at him and I was ready to be like, man, move. Man, move. I was ready to just like, move. I don't need to answer you. And I was very offended by it because what is your business? What is your business if I'm parked? Am I in front of your house? I'm on the street parked. And that to me was how do I now back to your question, Henry? Where do I put that? Do I say to myself, oh man, that's a homeowner looking out and seeing a car parked up for 45 minutes in his neighborhood? He's just being safe. Or do I now say to myself, would you bother me if I was a white guy parked up somewhere? I don't always know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I don't always know the answer to that. And I just kind of deal with it as it comes. And I get offended at times. I get bothered by it at times. When I realize it's them being malicious, I'm offended. When I realize they're being just racist, I get really offended and I deal with it accordingly. But when it's ignorance, I try to take the moment as an opportunity to dialogue with them in hopes that if nothing else, it'll plant a seed. So to answer your question, for those listening, I don't have a straightforward answer. I don't know. Again, at this point, I just kind of try to differentiate between ignorance and disrespect. And based on that decision, or based on that answer, I know how to deal with them. That's kind of where I leave it at.
You're good.
Well, I cut you off last time. I was just going to thank you, Anthony. That's a really genuine response, and I think adds a lot of validity to what you're saying. Because if they were easy answers, shouldn't somebody have already solved it by now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Ryan, go.
Yeah. And also my camera died. I don't know what's going on, but we're gonna. My battery is low, I think, so we're gonna power through this for anyone watching on YouTube. But Anthony, I think you've shed a really good light on a couple things. Number one is actually a concept that I brought up a few episodes ago, on episode 150, where I talked about the idea that a conversation is what takes place when at least one party cares more about the other person than they do the topic of conversation or the thing being argued about or talked about. The idea being that as long as I care more about you than about winning the conversation, then it is a conversation. And I think in those moments where you're making the determination between ignorance and, intentional malice, or even unintentional malice, but there is a line. I think you're determining, does this person seem like they're trying to connect with me more so than, and they're just doing the best they can, right? And I think that's where where you're making that distinction. And I think that's something worth pointing out is the other thing that you, I think, demonstrated with the story of the man in regards to the gospel music is the idea that it's relationship where a lot of these the bricks that make up this wall of ignorance, or the bricks that make up this wall of internal prejudice and bias that people have, those are best taken apart and taken down, brick by brick through genuine relationship.
And let me tell you all this.
Because especially since racism and bigotry is taught.
And this is my experience. Someone else may disagree, but to be very honest with you, when I'm dealing with my white brothers and sisters or Caucasian, whatever politically correct term you want to use, I'll be honest with you, I'm on guard, right?
Yeah, I get it.
When all of us first met, do you remember when they put all of us together? When all of us first met, I was like, oh boy, Woo. Oh man. And let me tell you what gave me comfort. What gave me comfort, like, okay, more of my guys are here than theirs, and
if it goes down. If the numbers on our side,
amazing.
They are going to lose because we outnumber them. They are on our territory. So try if you will, you're going to lose this one. And I was on guard. I was like super on guard, right? And here comes Henry, right? Here comes Henry, tall white guy with his button-down shirt and his loafers on and his pants, looking as gap as he wants to look, right?
Now listen, I wasn't wearing loafers in my defense.
And I'm there like, okay. And I'm ready. Like, what are they going to say? What are they going to say? And then we all work together and we start talking, right? We start to talk and we start to build relationships. And before long, we were hanging out in each other's rooms. We were going out for midnight snacks. Guys, that was not the best decision we made. That was not good for us either.
No, I'm still wearing the snap.
Still wearing the snap, right?
Hey, I wear mine proudly. Thank you very much.
There you go. And we got to know each other, and here we are, umpteen years later, we're still together. And so again, because so much has happened, right? And this is not media. Because as a people, we've endured so much and had so much happen to us. You put 10 African Americans, Black folks in a room, and I promise you, each of us has a minimum of 5, 6, 7 stories to tell you in which we had to deal with some form of racism of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, when as I said to you, when that guy came to me in the supermarket, the man had good intentions. But because of my experience, my guard is automatically up. I want to hear you. But because I know that there's a 90% chance it's going to be some nonsense, I'm apprehensive.
Yeah.
I'm apprehensive. I've had the privilege. God has opened the doors for me to speak and preach in different congregations. And I remember the first time I had to preach in a mostly, let me tell you, it was an all-white congregation. There's 2 Black folks in there. It was me and one other guy.
I'm so sorry.
Right? Let me tell you something. I was on the pulpit and I was like, well, good morning. Yep. There's only 2 Black guys in here. Praise the Lord. And I looked at him, Paul, I said, listen, you need to make sure you shout amen for everything I say.
Well done.
Because it's just the 2 of us in here, right?
Listen, white churches are like funeral homes, I swear. And I say that pastoring.
No, the crowd, listen, I won't say that.
I did.
The crowd laughed right? The crowd laughed, and we kind of made the best of it. And the message was great. And after church was over, the lady came up to me. Oh my gosh, Pastor, that was so great. It's been a long time since I heard a black sermon with all the shouting.
Th-
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. She's like, yeah, all the Baptist preaching inside of you. Ooh, we don't hear that kind of preaching here. And she said, oh, I gotta come to your church. I love that black voice. Oh, praise the Lord.
I think
I think
I can't
Jesus,
help.
amen. Yeah, but again, we I know, I don't want to say we, I'll say I know I'm on guard. I know because of what's transpired in my life, guns being drawn on me, being told I'm only good to lift things up, those kind of experiences brought me to a place where in my initial meet of a person who's Caucasian, I'm apprehensive because I don't know what's going to happen next. So if for my Caucasian brothers and sisters, for those of you who are well intent, who want to have the conversation, who want to befriend all of us and be one happy people, please understand if you get some hesitation at first, it's not you personally. It's not you personally. It's our experience that makes us apprehensive. And, with that understanding, move forward, but move forward with some caution, some understanding, because it's real. It's real. Henry said earlier, there's certain thought process that Henry doesn't have. He's not getting worried when he gets pulled over. If a 60-year-old white guy comes up to Henry, a 70-year-old white guy comes up to Henry, Henry's like, hey, Mr. Bill. A 70-year-old white guy comes up to me. I'm like, wait, you're 70. That means you grew up in a period where, how do I assess? I'm thinking all kind of things. So, just be mindful of that coming forward with us. Just be mindful that it's real. It's not media. It's not made up. It's real.
And on our side, that's what I was wanting to jump in
real.
and say. We have to be open to the possibility that there is an other experience out there than what we have had.
Right.
Because so many people will go, well, I don't understand it. They shouldn't have been whatever. I never have that issue. And they act as if their framework is the only correct framework.
Right.
And we don't realize that. I mean, but I listen to your stories and I think about that. And I think we talked about this on a podcast several episodes ago. This actually might have been back on A Beautiful Faith. But I was talking about one of the craziest police experiences I've had in my entire life happened just last year. And I had to go to the back of this industrial shop to pick up something that my wife had ordered, middle of the day. And unbeknownst to me, it was across from the mall, the big mall in town, and a carjacking took place from someone who had already jacked a car the night before. So the cops are already all pre-positioned waiting for these people to come back. And this person drove the car, was being pursued by the cops, managed to flip down into behind the industrial center and bailed on the vehicle while I'm standing behind this industrial park waiting for this box to be brought out to me. And they go fleeing. Now, note, I haven't called the cops. I haven't done anything. Now, the gentleman that was with me, who was also African-American because he was he was working at the shop, he gets nervous. He goes, you might want to call somebody. And we could hear a chopper in the air. And so we quickly called and said, hey, a car just got abandoned or whatever. About 20 seconds after we called that, about 50 police cars come pouring into the thing. They're all hopping out with, full rigs, not handguns, dogs, AR-15s, shotguns. I mean, they're all jumping out of everything. And I can still remember to anyone else, in my life, my first thought is uh-oh, I hope they don't think whatever. But they take one look at me and they don't raise the gun on me. There's 50 officers and I'm standing there again, the button-up shirt and khakis and whatever. And they take one look at me. Now, I could have been a well-dressed carjacker. I mean, if you want to say whatever, they don't know why I'm there and why I'm standing there or whatever. I'm standing there, but it doesn't even apparently cross their mind I could be the guy, and they don't even point a gun at me, and they go, which way did they go? Right? And I'm going through that experience thinking, wow, this is crazy. What a story. But I'm not in fear of my life at that moment. And at the same time, this will always stick with me. So they start scattering. They let the dog, they run over to the car, the dog sniffs, and they start moving. And, they've managed to catch them, and they make a statement from both of us or whatever. And as they're leaving, I remember the gentleman that I was picking the piece of furniture up from, he goes, he looks at me and he goes, "I'm so thankful you were here." And I kind of looked at him like, well, I mean, I had to get the thing. And he goes, no, you don't understand. He was like, "I have a couple kids at home. I just got this job." He goes, "If you had not been here, I'm very worried what might have happened to me standing back here." And it was such a foreign experience for me to think about it, because that was none of that ever crossed my mind. I'm just like, well, of course they're not going to hurt him. The two of us are here doing a business transaction. The car's over there. No, but for him, he was like, if you hadn't been standing here, the gun would have been drawn on me. I would have been on the ground until they figured out I wasn't the one that stole the car, that kind of thing. And it's just reminded me, and it's the point I'm trying to bring back to, we have to be open to the reality that there are other experiences than we have. And until we're open to that, we will never be able to deal with reality, because we're living in an alternate reality.
Yeah. And that's why, again, now to bring it to the police department, a lot of times we see videos, and let me preface this. I am not defending wrong. Okay? Let's go ahead. I'm not defending wrong, abuse of power. I'm not defending any of that. But a lot of times there are times when we see a video, or I've seen a video, and it didn't make the news, and like, oh my gosh, you saw 3 minutes of a 50-minute scenario. So there are times when the actions of the officers in the context of arrest, I'm not talking about shooting, in the context of arrest, you say, man, so a guy got arrested, and here's what happened, here's what transpired, here's okay. With that said, I don't base my experience, I don't base my mindset on media. I base my mindset on my experiences. And it is a true statement. It's a true statement. If you see a whole bunch of officers, and predominantly white officers, you're like, okay, stay still, careful, what's going to happen, right? And that's not media driven. That's experience. That's that's an experience. Henry, the guy said it. The guy's like, wait, what would have happened? I'm gonna take a stab in the dark and guess that he's had a few experiences somewhere along the line. And because of those experiences, I said to you earlier, I said to y'all, please understand that based on my experience, even if you approach me with good intentions, I am still cautious. When all of us met for the first time, and our various organizations brought us together, I was like, okay, all right. And it wasn't until we saw the sincerity with us together that we're like, okay, breathe. But that's experience. And Henry, listen, it's right. If the three of us are driving somewhere together, right? I'm like, yep, Henry's in the car. Okay, I am untouchable. I got my white friend with me. Woo, it's going to be a safe and easy drive. He's wearing khakis. We're all good.
Until the cop rolls the window down and goes, "Are you under duress, sir?"
Yeah, exactly. Is he bothering you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But if a group of us is black guys in the car, I'm like, okay, guys. And, it's funny, other friends who I have, we say to each other, okay, all right, 3 black guys in a car. Who's ready to be pulled over? We kind of it's we
If
are
if
we are
anything, that's just a
we are
coping
we are
mechanism at that point too, right? Like
it is.
yeah.
It's
And
a
I and I
yeah.
I get this to some degree as someone and I brought this up countless times. It is the main thing that most consistent thing that happens to me, but trust me when I say that I have far more conversations about this than I care to talk about or admit. This is just the easiest one to bring up, but the fact that I am Cuban catches people off guard all the time. And Anthony, I don't think you know this. But what usually happens when a family, whether they're Hispanic or white, the usual thing that happens is, oh, you're Cuban? Do you speak Spanish? And I say, nope, sorry. And they go, oh, well, then you're not really Cuban then. And there is this moment, right? Like the second that they find out that I'm Cuban, before they even get to that question, which inevitably comes every single time, before they get there, there is this, I immediately get on the defensive. Like I'm immediately bracing for the interaction that's going to happen because now I have to inform them that no, and also like that's offensive. For you to dismiss an entire half of my identity, essentially, and dismiss my entire mom's side of my family just because I don't speak Spanish or meet what your preconceived notion of what a Cuban should be.
Yep.
And I brace for that.
Yep.
And so like hearing what you're sharing with us is like what I experience is a microcosm of it because I am fully aware that I get all the benefits of privilege. And so I don't try to go out of my way to claim, victimization of anything, but rather I am honest about, I'm aware of it and honest about these things. But the reality I think for this is being open to those conversations through genuine relationship. And I think the other part of what you've brought up is everyone has a different part to play in this. And I think this is where I think we sometimes get caught up in anti-racism conversations on the positive side. We think that everyone has to be involved in every step of the journey of anti-racism. But just like in the church, the body of Christ, there's an arm, there's a leg, there's a foot, there's a hand. There is someone where you're not the person that engages to educate someone about why January 6th was wrong. There is someone that does. And that's their role to play in the conversation. Right. And so everyone has a part to play and a space within that journey of anti-racism education and advocacy. Everyone has a part to play. And it's more, I wish we would do more to help people embrace whatever their role is. And maybe that role simply is calling out an internal prejudice when it rears its head and trying to address those things. Maybe it is engaging in those Facebook conversations. That's not for everyone, but maybe it's for someone. I see there being, there's room for everyone in the anti-racism advocacy movement, right?
Yeah. And you know what, Ryan, and not to cut you, but this thing's just been hitting my mind. You know what bothers me? And it drives me
It's
nuts.
absurd.
Right?
And we always get there with a guess. We always get there.
We always get there. Here's and again, now I'm a dad with teenage drivers. I'm a father with teenage drivers. And here's what drives me nuts. When someone gives me a rubric and says, if you follow this, nothing's going to happen to you. And if something happens to you, it's because you missed step 3 and missed step 4. It drives me nuts.
And these same people don't go through life with a rubric.
Right. Because the reality of it is, my daughters, right? Even the scenario bothers my thought. Let me put it on me. I could drive a car and do everything I'm supposed to do and still run the risk of something happening to me, right? I can go to the finest schools and get the greatest education and put on the Brooks Brothers suits and still walk into a building and have someone belittle me and at least attempt to do it, right? I can do everything that I'm told to do and go somewhere and still be dealt with in a certain fashion. And we have to let that sink in. When someone has dealt with has had a racist experience, don't victim blame. Don't try to look for the steps that they skip and somehow, some way, it happened to them because they did it. Well, you moved too fast in the car, so the officer got upset. Stop it. Well, maybe if you had a softer look on your face and you walked to the building, the receptionist would have been kinder to you. Don't do that. Don't do that. Or maybe, just maybe, if you weren't so black about it. What does that mean? Maybe if your hair was cut a certain way, and maybe if you did this, maybe if you did that, this wouldn't happen to you. That drives me nuts. Because the reality is, using my daughters, I can say to my daughters right now, Ash, honey, Jazzy, baby, listen, when you drive the car, please make sure you do this, do that, do this, do that. Reality is, if they run into the wrong one, no matter how right they did it, he or she is looking for a reason to pounce on them, all because they're black. So it drives me nuts when folks try to tell me, well, if you do this, that won't happen. If you do this, that won't happen.
Yep. You're telling me that Jesus, if
shut up.
If the Army lieutenant that is now suing the two police officers who stopped him at the gas station, you're telling me
that got my blood boiling.
Right.
I think you pronounce his name Caron Nazario. I think that's how you say his name, but I could be wrong there. So I just want to preface that. But you're telling me that if that man had done what police had said currently his hands are showing the entire video. They told him unbuckle
He's in military
your
uniform.
Military uniform, yes.
In light.
And you're telling me if this man reaches back in to unbuckle his seatbelt, that the police officer he wouldn't have got shot. You're telling me
they already pepper sprayed him.
Because the first thing that I hear out of everyone was he was reaching for something. And this man knows if he reaches, right? You're telling me there's like, to me, that is the perfect example of if this man followed the rubric, he's probably another victim who's
leaving his
cut
hands
short
out there. They sprayed him. They were wanting to hit him with something.
In dealing with racist interactions and racism, let it sink in. Listeners, let this sink in. It's real. It's real. And no matter what I do, if the person on the other end who I'm dealing with, and I'm not limiting that to law enforcement because racism is all over, if they want to do something, they're going to try their best to find a way to do it and justify it. That's just it. Lock that into your mind. See, once you lock into your mind, it's real, and the seriousness of it and the generational pain it causes. When you start understanding the depth of it, now come to me and talk to me. Now come to me and help me build something. Understand. And again, I'll bring it back. I'm a father with children who will be driving, going out on their own. Understand that when they drive, I'm worried about an accident like any other parent. I'm worried about a ticket like any other parent. I'm worried about them just being teenagers behind the wheel like any other parent. But I'm also worried about them being abused. Not like any other parent, like the black parent. That's where we part ways.
Yep.
And
that's where we part ways. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I am fully aware. That my daughters can be hassled. Why? Because why are you driving that car? Why not? Why are you in that neighborhood? Right? Here's something, and let me just give you out. And here it is. You know, when this just drives me nuts. And I've heard it, my mom, she was adamant about grammar, right? You will not hear me say me and my, or you won't hear me say mines. That's just not part of my vernacular, right? Growing up, we were taught to speak well on the basis of mom said, however you speak, that's how you write. A person will judge you in few moments just based on how you converse with them. And that was ingrained in us. Please don't tell me I'm speaking white. Because what you're doing now is giving the ideology that white is correct and everything else is incorrect. Don't play yourself.
Yep.
Don't play yourself. You know,
that your only value is in becoming white.
As it right.
Yeah.
So now it's, oh, you're the guy. Oh, you speak white. You sound white. You listen to the Gaithers. Oh man, we can let you into our little club. Get out of here.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
those are things that bother me. And again, it's just, I'm prepared to deal with it if it's me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a wife who drives to work. I have daughters who are coming up and driving and starting to spread their wings. They start, in a little while, my daughters will be out of here going to college, starting to spread their wings. I have 2 young Black boys, sons, who are coming up. My worry is now for them.
Mm-hmm.
As far as myself, my worry is now getting home to them because I don't know what I could deal with out there. I don't know what I'll run into. And again, I'm not limiting that to law enforcement. I'm extending to the guy who had a Make America Great Again hat with a Smith & Wesson on his side, who looked at me as if old saying, if you slip, you slide. He was ready. Looked at me as if I didn't belong to shop in the same place he was shopping at. So these it's guys, we go on and on and on because it's real. And that's what I want the listeners to really sink in. I want listeners to really sink into their thoughts. It's real. For every video you see where it's not justified and things are happening the wrong way, there are thousands of experiences, law enforcement and outside of law enforcement, that transpires that you don't see. When they follow you in the store, right? When they follow you in the store, when you're online, when you're standing online somewhere and the person in front of you is a white person and the cashier is a white person, said, "Good afternoon, sir. How are you?" But when you come up, "What's going on, my man?" Wait. I don't get sir. I get my man. You know what I'm saying? Wait. When he was in front of me, you said, "Good afternoon. How are you, sir?" When I come now, it's "What's up, my man?"
Yeah. Yep.
But,
Yeah. And this is what we were saying before. We have to be open to the reality that there are experiences other than our default experience. I think another thing that you brought up that's very valuable is relationship at its core is what heals so much. And it's going to have to be employed in the various stages or talents and abilities and experiences to make that happen. And then, as you also said, it's going to be nearly impossible to have a positive relationship with someone if you discredit or devalue their experience when you're trying to engage with them.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, well, if you'd followed the rubric, if you'd done whatever.
Yeah.
And I just really want to thank you, Anthony. I mean, as you say, we could keep going forever. And I mean, but it means a lot. First of all, your friendship means a ton. I thank you for giving, skinny white boy like me time when you first met in all these years to get past my nerdishness and be like, hey, okay, let's relate. Let's share a bit of life together. And sharing life with you in the various ways in the last 6 years or so now has been a blessing. It's been nearly 6 years now. And in that time, you've honored me by being able to speak to several of your churches. You've moved districts since, I've followed you around a little bit, get to know your family, watch your kids grow up.
Yeah.
Henry, stop following people. It's not okay. Stop following people.
Well, I mean, it was Yeah, you know what? When they're worth following, but
Ryan, listen, man. I called when I was getting ordained. I called.
Yes,
and it was hilarious, by the way, because
and
it was like we show up at his ordination. I'm like one of like two white folk that had to walk in with everything, and they looking at us like, "What are you doing here? You know, are you trying to make a point?"
When the guy saw it was Henry, was like Henry's, and we have a name for Henry.
Oh dear!
Come on, Ryan. You remember the name we gave Henry? We called.
No,
Henry.
I actually don't. I don't remember this.
The nickname that Henry got, and I won't tell you. It wasn't me who gave him the nickname, and I wish I could take credit for it. The nickname that Henry got.
It was a ministerial director,
right? I won't say a name.
Elder. Well, I won't say his name, but Elder W for those who would figure it out.
One of our administrators former administrators gave Henry a name, and he called him James White.
Oh no!
Right?
And I couldn't tell if that was a positive or a slight.
Right? For those in the Adventist Church, we all know who James White is.
Yeah.
You know,
that's amazing.
So Henry got the name James White. So funny enough, it got to the point where everybody really thought his name was James. Right? Everybody thought his name because those of us who knew him, and we kept saying James White, and other guys like, oh, what a coincidence! His name is James. No, it's not. It's not. But it's it's guys like y'all. You know, Ryan, you were hanging with us, all of us. I mean, how many of us can be in one room hanging out, talking all night, just chilling? It's incredible. But that's the beauty of life.
Yeah.
The beauty of life is there's genuine friendship, brotherhood among us. It's not for show. It's not occasional. It's genuine friendship. Mm-hmm. I called my friend like, yo, dude, this major moment is happening in my life. Show up.
Yeah.
Show up. And Henry showed up. Who else showed up?
Our ministerial director came. Yes.
Yeah, ministerial showed up. He showed up and he was like, Anthony, so happy for you. Can we call his name? Is that okay? Is that a...
It's up to you.
That's up to you. I mean, I don't mind. His name's Haskell Williams is what his name is.
Dope guy. That's my buddy right there. Haskell, if you're hearing this, you're the man. Give me a call sometime.
Yeah.
Haskell, he's like, Anthony, I can't believe you didn't call me. You just called Henry. I had to show up. And he like hugged me, embraced me, and the beauty of life.
We even put on the dumb ties.
He put on. I will not condone that statement. The ties were great. In the event,
the idea of everybody wearing the same tie is kind of cool, but they go and choose the $1 bin for what's getting disposed of.
For my employers who are listening to this right now,
amazing. Amazing.
My employers, that statement was made by Henry, and I do not condone.
Honored by what it meant, but use tithe dollars better.
Okay.
Dollars better.
So let me bring us back on track because we do need to kind of wrap up
and
here.
Wrap it up. Yeah.
And Anthony, I do want to give you the last word here as well. So I'm going to throw it to Henry after me, and then if you want to share anything as we close out. But I think if I could encourage listeners with one thing, it is, if I could challenge them with one thing, I would say this. And actually, I learned this within the context of Black churches and white churches. And this is something that, bringing up your ordination service, which is a special thing within Adventism, especially, it's a very significant moment for a minister.
Major.
The number one thing I've noticed is a difference between white churches and Black churches, and this is what we saw with the story you shared earlier about what other Black person being in the service with you, is that Black people and people of color in general, because I've seen this in different cultures as well, when they're in church together, they're worshiping communally. And what I see in most white churches when I walk in, and churches I've pastored, churches I've been in, I have been in well over 100 churches, easy, where I've either preached or just been a part, or just been there to attend. The difference is that white people are worshiping individually as a community. So there is the one thing that I wish people could see when we see these videos of all of these different encounters with police officers is, I think we do our disservice by reducing racism in the police force or racism in police interactions down to just whether or not a Black person was shot. because there's a whole lot of racism that happens before then. And it doesn't have to get to they were shot and killed for it to be racist, number one. But number two, I wish we could understand that people of color experience these moments communally. That when that person on screen experiences this moment, or when their friend or family member experiences this, they feel that as a personal thing of, that's me. That's one of ours. That is, it is very much that kind of communal experience, because white people have a very, very, this isn't across the board, of course, but there's a very much a individualized experience. And that comes right alongside suburban America, getting yards, fenced in backyards, being able to separate and kind of wall yourself off from other people. That's where a lot of that actually comes from. And so I wish we could open ourselves up to understand that this is a communal experience every time this happens. And if we could understand that, and understand that it may not be them on screen, but it is them. It is that person that is talking about this on social media, that is hurting and grieving because of it. This is a communal experience. And if we can understand that, we would have a lot easier of a time connecting with and opening ourselves up to these conversations that are so needed. So that's all that's where I think I want to land with any challenge that I have for anyone listening to this. But Henry, I want to throw it to you, and then Anthony, if you want to share any last words, and then I'll kind of cap out the episode.
Yeah, I've just rehashed what I've said before. We have to be open to the reality that there are experiences other than our own. Relationship is really what is going to change so much. It's true of everything, but in this case. But also note, you cannot have a positive relationship. It's near impossible to do so if we invalidate other people's emotional experiences, period. It may be foreign to you. You need to admit it's foreign. You may need to admit I can't compute that. That just doesn't make any sense in my context. That's one thing, but do not invalidate what is being told you. You have no right to do that. Right. And if you do that, don't be surprised when the other person invalidates the conversation with you and just goes, I'm not going to have that. And then don't go be like, well, I tried, but they wouldn't talk to me. Well, it's not a conversation when you're like, you're dumb, which is basically what you're saying when you invalidate everyone has a right to their emotions, right? You can get to the facts later, but do not, whether the facts are wrong, it doesn't even matter. Everyone has a right to their emotions. So just remember that. And the only last thing I would say is, Anthony, I know we asked you a couple of weeks ago to come on for this, and it means a lot to me that you would be as transparent as you've been, that you would share your experiences like that. It's not only brought a richness to this conversation, and I hope to our listeners, but it's just another reminder to me how rich my life is for having you in it. And I just want to thank you for that. And I love you, man. I don't get to say that in public venues enough, but I really appreciate the last 6 years and the way you put up with me. You call me on my nonsense too. And it makes life, no, I'm serious, but it makes life good. And I really long for a point where people of faith can help demonstrate that across races, across situations. But it's easy to say, it's harder to do. And it takes like that. We're only at this point after 6 years. Don't expect to solve a problem in 6 minutes, right? We're not going to solve a societal issue in 6 days, 6 trials, 60 months. That's not going to work. It takes intentional relationship now. And I just thank you for sharing your relationship with me, with Ryan, but also with our listeners.
Yeah. So I want to jump this first. Thanks guys. Known you both for many years, and thank you for permitting me a part of this experience. And I think more of this needs to happen, more dialogue, more action. Where we take.
Bro, you are welcome anytime.
Oh, listen, man,
Yes.
I'm about to be the next co-host. I was waiting for y'all.
Hey, if you just keep showing up, the link for the
put you
recording
on.
stays the same every week. If you just keep showing up.
I'm about to be the next co-host. I'm about to take this thing over. Y'all don't understand. I want my name in the lights. It's great to, let me first affirm my friends. It's great to have friends like you guys. Really and truly, it's great to have y'all as friends. I value each of y'all. I hold animosity towards you, Ryan, because you don't call me nearly enough.
I was going to say, this is the first time we've talked in like 3 years, and how easy it was to smooth back in is amazing.
Yeah. So if I don't make it to heaven, it's because I'm holding animosity.
If I don't make it to heaven, it's because I didn't call you. So that's fair.
There you go. There you go.
You didn't call, so the roll wasn't called up yonder, you know?
There you go. There you go. But it's really great to have friends like yourselves, where we all of us have different backgrounds and we're able to come together as one. And we've been doing that from the moment we met, and we felt comfortable with each other and built something. So I want to definitely acknowledge that. I want to say this, from a law enforcement perspective, serving as a chaplain, I want to affirm this. I don't want, and every time this is said, folks take it as an anti-Black statement. It's not. Okay? We have genuinely good people who are Caucasian and otherwise, who are part of law enforcement, and they're good people. I acknowledge the fact that there are those who are not, and they do things that are wrong, full of injustice. It's sinful. It's disgraceful. I'm going to acknowledge that. But I'm asking us, please, don't write off every law enforcement person because of that. Please don't do that. I had an officer look at me one night and broke down in tears. He broke down in tears. And he said to me, I just want to go home at the end of my shift. I'm not here to harm or hurt anyone. I want to go home. I want to see my child. I'm here to uphold the law. If you need some help, I'm here. If you've done something wrong, I have to address the issue. Great guy. So I don't want us to write off every single officer because of that. Right? At the same time, now put period, move on. Folks, get this in your heart. Racism is real. Henry said it. Don't belittle it. It's real. It's real. It's real. And even though you may not experience it in your context, doesn't make it any less real, doesn't make it any less hurtful, and it doesn't make it any less fearful for those who encounter it. See me, and I mean that. See me as a person. I am a person. I'm a living, breathing person. My wife, my children, my neighbors, my colleagues, we're all living, breathing people. Treat me as such. Value me as I value you. There's a songwriter that says, pray for me as I pray for you. I need you to survive. I need you. You need me. I need you. Let us grow in grace together. You cannot call yourself a Christian, a Bible-believing follower of Christ, and you're harboring racial thoughts and bigotry in your mind. You can't do it. You can't do it. Don't say to me, I'm an Adventist, I'm a Baptist, I'm a Methodist, I'm this, I'm that. But boy, that Black guy, the two don't go together. If you're for God, be for God. If you're not, then don't. But don't fake it. And if you're going to treat me differently because of the color of my skin, if you're going to hold your purse tighter because I walk inside the store as a Black guy, you need to rethink your life. See that and treat me as a person. I'm going to treat you as a person. I'm going to love you as a person. All of us here, we are spiritual leaders. We are spiritual leaders. We're pastors. Our responsibility, our calling is to love people, pray on people, pray over them, pray for them, be there for them. And at the end of the day, all of us should be doing that for each other. Folks, don't close your eyes to injustice. If you see something, say something. If you see something going wrong, if you see someone treating another person in a way that's not befitting of a Christian, call them on it. Let them feel uncomfortable. Let them feel uncomfortable. Say, hey. No. That's racist. Call them on it. Don't be afraid to call them on it. Call them on it. Say to them, you're wrong. Don't be afraid to call injustice by its rightful name. Call sin by its rightful name, sin. Do that. Do that. You want to be a part, if you as a Caucasian person, a white person, you really want to help me? Here's how you help me. When your cousin, your grandfather, your neighbor, when they say something racial in my presence and outside of my presence, call them on it. Hey, grandpa, that's racist. Call them on it. Do that for me. Call them on and say, no, I'm not. So you know what it is? If you stay there silent, you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. And if I could just turn the pastor hat on for a second, folks, God is coming back. Whether you believe it or not, here's the cool thing about God. He doesn't need for you to believe it for it to happen. That I really believe in the second coming of Christ. And let me go ahead and ease the tension for everybody. He's not coming back for all white. He's not coming back for all black. He's not coming back for all Hispanic. He's coming back for those who are in him. White, black, purple, pink. Remember that song we sang as kids? Jesus loved little children of the world? Red, yellow, black, and white? He's come back for everyone who's in him. So if you want to prepare for heaven, you start loving everybody here. And let's grow in grace. So that means so much more to say. To say. Stand up against injustice. And I hate to say it this way, but I gotta say it. For my black friends and people out there, African American, whatever you want to call it, let's be politically correct. Be safe.
Yeah.
We know it. We're living it. Be safe. Be safe. Because we know what it is.
Yep.
So be safe and keep growing in grace.
Well, with that, Anthony, thank you so much for being a part of this and for your openness and willingness to engage in this conversation. And I hope to have you back on, man. I want you back on this show more often.
Yes.
I would love to have you here. And with that, listeners, thank you for being a part of the journey, for listening this far in as well. If you want to support us, check the links in the show description. And also, if you want to send, if you want us to pass on any messages to Anthony, please email me. I try to protect our guests as much as possible when I can from just putting out their contact info or anything. So feel free to email me, and I will happily pass your message on to him. No problem. It will give me a reason to call him, give me some accountability to call him more often. So with that, everyone, thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next time.